Good morning, everyone. My name is David Bryant. I'm the library director, and we thank you all for signing up for this. In fact, we had so many sign-ups, and I know it doesn't look like a crowded room, but this is a very large crowd for what Ron Sharrow is going to be teaching you, nurturing you, etc. We had originally planned to be in our conference room, which is limited to 20 people. So I think this room will be a lot more comfortable. You've got a very able teacher today to guide you. How many of you have attended one of Ron's sessions before? Oh, okay, so mostly new. That's great. He does a good job. He's funny. His biography, he will press that upon you. You will leave here knowing everything about his life. And he's a great guy and with a great sense of humor, but he's also very smart. And he has published 12?
I just did 13. Push the button last
Lucky 13. He's at Lucky 13 Books, self-published. So he is the master of the art, and you're in very good hands with Ron Sharrow. So without further ado, here's my friend, Ron Sharrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I want to remind you, please, to sign up on that sheet and do it legibly so I can send you emails. I'm going to send everyone who attends a transcript of the entire lecture and the slides. And you'll also be able to watch it on YouTube for the rest of your life. I think they're filming it. Just by way of introduction, I'm from Baltimore. That's a little town back east. I practiced law there for 35 years. And during that period of time, I kept a journal of all the stupid things people told me, the preposterous stories I heard, some of the really weird criminal cases that I tried early in my career. And when I retired and I decided to move to California, I was in the garage sorting things out, junk that was going to go in the dumpster I accumulated for God knows most of my life. I never threw anything away. And what was going to move to California with me. So among that stuff that almost made it to the dumpster was a journal that I kept that I told you about during the course of the years that I practiced law. And I started leafing through it and remembering these people and the stories, and I started thinking to myself, this stuff is funnier than fiction. I mean, it should be shared. And I had a friend whose name was C. Bruce Winston. Never found out what the C stood for. He would never tell anyone. Bruce would go, we went out together frequently, and Bruce would order a Stoli crystal gimlet on the rocks and a snifter with a twist of lime. Always sent it back. There was always something wrong with it. Well, I would tell Bruce some story about something that had happened in the office that day, and he would always laugh and say, you know, you ought to write a book. That's every time. So while I'm leafing through this journal, I thought, you know, Bruce is right. I should write a book. So I started out, I named my protagonist C. Bruce West. He drinks Stoli crystal gimlets on the rocks and a snifter with a twist of lime, and he always sends them back. And he's a superb criminal lawyer, my alter ego, much better than I ever was in the courtroom anyway. And I began to write. I sat down that day and began writing the first book, which was called, it was originally called The Sword of Justice. I took that title from a closing argument in the actual case that I tried. And I later changed it to A Lawyer's Revenge. And the revenge was the client I had never paid me. And I could not get out of the case. Judge wouldn't let me out of the case, and he didn't cooperate at all. It was a serious case. It was a rape case, and we're walking to the courthouse. I said, when we get in the courthouse and get in the courtroom, tell the judge you want a different lawyer. He said, why? I said, because you're going to get the electric chair if I represent you. You didn't pay me. He said, oh, I'm going to pay you. I said, yeah, all I want to do is live long enough. Well, anyway, the wind-up was I couldn't get out of the case, and I tried it. He was a black gentleman who was accused of raping a white woman. They had tons and tons of evidence. I got him off, and if I had a gun, I would have shot him right there in the courtroom. Anyway, that was the revenge. I picked an all-white female jury. So that helps. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about, usually I talk about creative writing, some tricks on, how to create good dialogue, how to create interesting narrative, the old expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words, not anymore. With inflation and everything, it's maybe worth 400 words, but I'm really not going to go into that today. I'm going to operate today on the assumption that everybody here has some sort of a manuscript that they've written. If you haven't written it, then you'll learn something from this. And I'm going to tell you essentially, we're going to talk today about once you've got your manuscript written, it's not a book. It's not a book until it turns into one of these. This is a book. And then there's e-books that don't have covers. We'll talk about that also. But there are different parts to a manuscript that end up making it a book. And we're going to talk about creating a book out of the written words and assembling it and getting it published. That's the key. Getting so you can hold it in your hand. So I'm operating under the assumption that everybody has written a book, hopefully in a computer where it's digitized and the text can be manipulated. So we'll begin with that, if I can figure out how this thing works. Here we go. Okay, so essentially what you have, if you've written this book, is a bunch of words on a page. And that's what it looks like. It says a bunch of words on a page. and now that's a perfect format for an e-book, for a digital book, because e-books cannot be formatted. You don't know how many pages it'll be. You don't know. It depends upon the device on which it's being read as to whether or not it could be 500 pages, it could be 3,000 pages. It depends on the size of the screen on the device. It formats, the e-book formats the text itself. It justifies the right-hand margin, but it doesn't recognize, as a rule, things we're going to talk about today, drop caps and enhanced text and things like that. So, and you have to publish your book as an e-book. E-books outsell print copy books 5 to 1. If you have any intention of selling a book, that's about the ratio. Each of my books is available as an e-book, and they, based upon the royalties I get, it's about 5 to 1. So you certainly don't want to miss out on that. We're going to talk today mostly about formatting for print. You're going to want to do that also, because it's really fun to open a box and find these inside, and you look at your baby, and oh my God, it's the most exciting thing in the world. Where's Alan Tossman? He'll tell you. He's sitting back. He's hiding. He'll tell you. I've got one of his books here, and that's an exciting moment when that book arrives. I got to tell you. So a bunch of words on a page. What are we going to do with it? Well, if we're going to make an ebook out of it, that's fine. You can leave it just the way it is. But we're going to talk about text. So we're going to take that text on that page. We're going to highlight the entire thing. It could be 500 pages. Control A will highlight the entire text. Don't write it down. I caught you. You're writing. It's all in the text. It's everything I tell you is in the transcript. So we're going to set some margins. We're going to set a 1-inch margin at the top, a 8/10 of an inch margin on the sides. That's a little more than 3/4 of an inch, and 8 on the bottom, which is another 3/4 of an inch. So that will get you something that looks like this. I'm going to show you I'm going to show it to you on the screen, but so we set the margins globally. The next thing we're going to do is justify the right-hand margin, and we do that again with the Control A, and there's a little thingy that's circled. You see it up there? That will justify the margin in the entire document to the right margin. It doesn't take very long to do this, I can tell you that. The tough part's coming. So we justified the right margin. Now there's several formatting techniques that you should know about. They're tedious, they take a lot of time, but the end result really works. The first one is when there should be some white space in the book. It makes it more interesting to look at, it's more interesting to read. It's artistic. The interior of the book should be at least as artistically put together as the cover. So I recommend that you start the first word on the page on the first page of each chapter should start the text 1/3 of the way down on the page. It creates some white space, and it gives you the opportunity for editing material, so you can adjust the text on the page throughout that chapter. You don't want to end a chapter with one word on the last page, or one sentence, or maybe even two sentences, because it looks like you're cheating. Somebody's reading it and say, look at that. You wanted to have more pages, so I put one word on a page. It just eliminates any negativity from it. Next thing we should do is change the line spacing. This book, Uncovered, it happens to be a book that I wrote and recently published for a lady from Pakistan. It's become a very, very hot book. It's a very popular book. I changed the spacing between the lines to 1.2. It's a single space plus 2/10 of a space. It widens it just enough to give it some white space, makes it easier to read. You're not squinting to read the words. And so I recommend 1.2 or 1.1. Some of the more popular writers today, like Stuart Woods, his books probably wouldn't be 150 pages ordinarily. But he doesn't double space. He uses 1.5 spaces. He has 1 inch or better margins on all the way around. I think there's 2 lines on the first chapter, first page of each chapter. That's exaggeration, but he's got tons and tons of space all throughout the book, and the book comes out to about 350 pages usually. It's a little extreme. I don't advocate doing that, but if you got nothing to say and you want to have a lot of pages, that's one way to do it. So here's what a formatted page looks like. I use an enhanced text, a larger typeface for the chapter heading. Use this, and it's a different typeface. That's what is that? I got to think about it. Anyway, Times Roman 12-inch type is the standard type for most books. And single space, it's hard to read. But with 1.1 or 1.2 spaces on the lines, it opens it up and gives it a chance to read it. I like drop caps to start the first character of each chapter. Oh, wrong one. This is a drop cap. It's a device. It's available in Word. It's on the Insert menu. Insert, click on drop cap, and then there's choices. You can go 4 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines. That's 3. And then on subchapters, I like to put a space and then use the same drop cap and maybe the same enhancement. I don't know if you can tell. Can you see that that's enhanced? It has a shadow around it. And I use a two-line drop for the subchapters. When talking about writing your book and compiling it, your chapters really shouldn't be much more than 6 pages long. It makes a much more interesting reading experience, and it becomes a page turner, because here you are sitting there reading this book, and you've been reading for 20 minutes, and you get to the end of a chapter or the end of a subchapter, and you say, and you start counting pages to the next break. And you say, oh, that's only 4 pages. I'll read the next chapter, see what's going to happen. Then you get to the end of that one, so you say, oh, it's 5 pages. So you keep reading, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, you get off of the toilet, you've got hemorrhoids, and you're ready to fall off of the seat. But it creates a page turner. People, they look for breaks in the book where they can put it down and come back to it later. And so short chapters contribute to that. So we talked about illuminating character. I talked about you want to eliminate having well, first of all, when you set your book up to do automatic right-hand justification, Word and most of the Word programs that do that leave a lot of white spaces between words. If there's a word near the end of a line, a long word, and it can't get to the end of the line, it drops it to the next line. So you end up with a whole lot of white space between words. Kind of disconcerting, actually. This is an example. This is one way to close up the type, and that way is to change the order of the words. Take the longer word, put it on the next line, and move some shorter words up to the line before. It doesn't change the meaning of what you've said, but it changes the position of the words on the line. And so you can read it. Cucumber is a long word, and it's, as a result, it's left some white space up on the line above it. So if I bought some nuts and a cucumber, it puts the word cucumber on the bottom line, and it closes up the space on the top line. So by rearranging the order of the words, you can close the gaps. Now, there's also a lot of gaps when I wrote that. You can see them. I highlighted them. But it's a utility called character spacing. It enables you to micro change the width of the characters and the spaces between them on a line. And often that comes in really handy when you're formatting a book. Because what you don't want is to end up with a last page of a chapter that has one word or two lines or one line on it. So you need to find space where you can move everything up, take it up to the next spot. I may have skipped. I wanted to show you that. That's an important feature. Oh, there it is. I can't see. That's a problem. Is that? Oh, yeah, the word page. Yeah. There's a sentence that has one word at the end of a paragraph has one word at the end of the paragraph. It's on a separate line. That's a good thing to look for when you're trying to move everything up, because you can move that word to the line above it using the character spacing. And I missed this slide. It's on the advanced tab of the. I'm using a new version of Word. I just got a new computer with the 2016 Word. I want to kill myself and throw it out the window. I hate it. But I'm not going to live long enough to learn how it works. But in the past, there was a tab that said Format. You went on that, clicked on Font, and you could manipulate the text all over the place. That's gone. You're supposed to read the mind of the guy that created this. And I found out by accident, if you highlight the line you want to change and right-click the mouse, that menu, the font menu, is there, and it works from there. It took me 2 weeks to find that. So you click on the advanced tab, and you can condense or expand the line. Now, in this case, I wanted to bring this up, so I condensed it by. I don't know that those points mean anything. They're micro points. Each character has a different width. An M is wider than an N. An I is narrower than a T. So you have to play with it a little bit. It's tedious and it takes time and it's frustrating. So we're going to condense it. We're going to condense the line by 3 points. We're going to click on OK, and you'll see that moved the. Oh, come on. That moved the word page up to the preceding line. And what that did, in effect, is it raised everything throughout the entire chapter. It raised everything up one line throughout each page. So if you had one word or one sentence on the last page of the chapter, it would move that up to the preceding page, and so now you have a clean page to start the next chapter. Word does other things as well. Somehow or another, it senses where it has to take a break to move things down to the next page. Very often, because of the position of words in the last two lines, it takes the last two lines and moves them down a page. Well, you end up with a page with two blank lines on it, and when you open the book up and you see this, the right page is up here, and the bottom, and the page before it is down there. It just, you know. So there's an example. And this is a real example. It came out of, I don't know, one of my books. Anyway, so there's two lines at the bottom of that page. And I used the character spacing feature to bring two lines back up to the top. I had to find a place in that sentence down here, the second sentence, where it would raise everything up. And that was after the word steadfast. I'll go back. So steadfastly, I put a return in there. I hit the enter key. And that moved everything up. Moved those two lines back up to the top. Now I'm stuck with the space between steadfastly and the margin, and the word refuse, which it indented because it automatically assumed that it was a new paragraph because I hit the enter key. So I had to move this back to the margin. Backspace does that. And I had to use the character spacing to move all of this closer to the margin and get the margins even, which is what we accomplished using that feature. So now everything is balanced and everything is nice and justified. It's tedious and it takes a lot of time to do that, but it's worth it in the end because you get a great result when it's finished. Okay, there's four elements to a book. A book, we started out, we just had a bunch of words on a page. Now we're going to turn it into a book. So the first thing we've got to do is we have to have a cover. Cover is an important element of the book. It's a window to look inside and see what's going on in there. It's an enticement to a prospective buyer of your book or a reader of your book to take a look at it and say, hey, that looks interesting. The title should also have some connection to what the book is about. Now, I write about courtroom drama, and so I told you about A Lawyer's Revenge. The lawyer getting his revenge against his client. You don't know what it's about. If you knew what it was about, you wouldn't have to read the book. But the conspiracy with a picture of the Capitol, it was a conspiracy between the client and some official in the United States government. A conspiracy actually to violate the immigration laws. And these are actual real cases that I tried. Mistaken identity speaks for itself. I thought that the wrong person had been accused until after the trial was over, and then I realized that he was really the guy, but there was a lot of twists and turns in it. Busted. Poor old lady was busted for having drugs under her bed that her son deposited there because he was dealing drugs. He didn't think anybody'd look under his mother's bed. And he was right. Nobody ever looked under there, including her. Scoundrel, about a bad guy committing all kinds of scams. The neighbor. Lady lived in a really fancy house, accused of killing or murdering her neighbor. Tarnished badges, that's not really a case that I tried. Tarnished badges is about bad cops. And some of them are brutally murdered by somebody to get even. They were murdered in the ways that they abused some of their victims. Bruce ends up in that book representing a victim of a bad cop who ends up getting murdered, and then he ends up at the same time representing the person accused of murdering the cop. It was kind of a fun book. Dead End, last night at midnight, I pushed the buttons to publish this for the 7th time since March the 3rd. Every time I uploaded it to get it published and started to proof it, I found another mistake, and it drove me crazy. So I went back, corrected the mistake, and then uploaded it again, and then proofed it again, and I found more mistakes, and I kept doing that. Last night was the 7th time, and it's the last time. Whatever mistakes are in there are going to stay in there. But I had already had the book published and printed, and it's available on Amazon with the mistakes, but not anymore, because when you change the manuscript with CreateSpace, it comes off. It's no longer available until about 12. It takes about 12 hours to get back into work. So Dead End is not about a case I tried. It's about a dream I had. It's an autobiography. It begins and it ends on a dead-end road. And it was fun. It wasn't fun to write. It was a very cathartic experience. I had a lot of miserable things happen to me in my life, and I had to relive them all. But I had a lot of good stuff happen too, so I'm here talking to you. I'm here. That's a good thing. I'm almost as old as the dirt outside. Anyway, so the cover is an important feature of the book, and the title is as important. So that's part number one. Part number two, there's three parts to a book, essential parts. The first, and I call them the front pages. That's the title page, the copyright page, the table of contents, the foreword, all those things that belong there that are not numbered pages, that are not contributing in any way to the story itself. So that's section one. There's no limit to the number of pages it could be, but you don't want it to be a part of the chapters of the book. So you have to create that as a separate document. And there's reasons for that. I've put little red arrows here, and there's, I don't know if you can read that. That's a section break. That means that everything that follows that is a different section of the book. It's not going to be affected by numbering or headers and footers. And you have to put that in there because the geniuses that created these programs created them the way they thought things should be done. And if you want to do it a different way, you're going to do it their way or else. And so this is the way I found around that. For example, when you number your manuscript, the pages in your manuscript, those numbers will bleed off into any other section of that book that doesn't have a section break in it. You don't want a number on these front pages. You don't want numbers on the back pages. They're not related to the story. You don't want the header on the first page of a chapter because it's ugly. It detracts from it. It doesn't do anything. If you look at just about any book published by any mainstream publisher, there are no headers and very often no numbers on the first page of a chapter. And so this avoids that. And you put this together as a section of the book. The next section is your book. That's the story. This has been formatted. And it's an interesting looking page. It's got some, it's a whole lot different than a bunch of words on a page. This book, incidentally, was just published in March, beginning of March. That's the book. It was a 400-page manuscript when it started. When I finished editing, it was 150 pages, and it's now a 370-page book. And it's gotten rave reviews. This woman is aggressive, and she has sold. I can't believe the books that she sold. In fact, we're getting ready to re-edit it. I found a couple little mistakes that I didn't like, and one of which I thought that the spine, the word, should be raised up a little bit, so I'm going to do that too. One nice thing about self-publishing, you can change that book 10 years after it was written and published, and it costs nothing. You can just do it at will. So this is from her book. This is deceiving. There's no number on the first page of that chapter. There's no header. And the header of her name really belongs on the left-hand page. That's an even number page you put that on. And this shows the even number page on the right. Odd number pages are on the right. This is a screen print of the PDF file that was uploaded to print. It changes the pages. It puts the odd page on the left and the even page on the right. And in reality, it's the reverse. And it comes out right when it's uploaded. But anyway, that's what a nicely formatted page looks like in a book. This is 1.1 spaces per line, not 1.2. Nice amount of white space, easy to read. That's the second section or the third part of your book. And the fourth part and the final part are the back pages. The pages that come at the back, unrelated to the story, but bio of the author, acknowledgments of people who helped write the book or contributed in some way, author's notes about the story or about the people, about anything that you want somebody to know about, not a part of the numbered pages of the book, and once again, has to be separated from the rest of the book with section breaks and each one is handled as a separate section. They are combined into one part of the book. It's like taking 5 pages and staple them together. So we end up now we have a cover and 3 sections of the book. Next thing we have to do is combine them. Now, before we get to that point, this is where you have to number the pages in your story, and you have to put the headers and the footers in. And if you do that after they are compiled with the rest of it, you're in deep doo-doo. I got to tell you, you'll want to kill yourself. You want to get a short rope from Lowe's and hang it from a tall tree. It's frustrating because everything changes automatically. The numbers change. You find your book starting at page 15, and to avoid that, you have those 3 sections. So now, when it comes time to compile the book, we've numbered the pages, we've put the headers and footers in, and each chapter, like all the other things, has a section break after each chapter. And so you end up with a whole bunch of chapters in your computer that have to be compiled. So first you compile your front pages. That means take the title page and then copy right underneath of that. You copy the copyright page, and you keep doing that until you have all your pages in the front in one document. Separate each page, separated by a section break, and the whole document separated by a section break. And then to do the same thing with your compiled chapters. This book had I think 70 chapters in this book. So it took a while to compile it, but they were all numbered. They were nice and sequential, and everything looked good. The headers and footers all worked. So we take the front pages, we bring that up, and then we go do a Control-A on the whole story, which is 200 pages or whatever, and then paste that underneath of that, and then do the same thing with the back pages. Now we've got a fully compiled book. This becomes a book. Whereas before it was just a bunch of words on a page. Okay, now we're going to get this thing published. It didn't take us very long to do this. And publishing takes less time. Believe it or not, it's not like the old days. That first slide, you saw a print shop, and there were guys with eye shades, and they're setting type, and it was a monster. Then they had automatic typesetters, and then they had these machines that melted the type, the lead type, in any order. They used like a typewriter-like device. And then computers came along, and now it's just a whole different ballgame. I don't know if any publisher has a printing press. They're all. I watched this. These books were made at a show in New York. I've never seen anything like it. It was a machine about the size of a smart car, a little tiny one of those little cars. And they had a screen in the front, and they pushed some buttons, and they brought a manuscript up, and they pushed another button, and they brought a cover up, and then they pushed a button, and 30 seconds later, this came out of the other end of that machine. Trimmed, printed, cover, glazed, the whole thing. Unbelievable. It's called Print on Demand. The company that does this, there are more than one company that do it, but the one that I use is CreateSpace. It's a wholly owned company, owned by Amazon.com. They own the company, and they run it like they run Amazon.com. They also own Kindle, which is the most popular ebook. Publishing on CreateSpace is free. It costs nothing. And they have a staff of people who you call if you have a problem. I'll talk about it, but you get on their website, and it says contact us. You push that, and you put your phone number in. And the minute you hit the enter key, your phone rings. And it's somebody who speaks English on the other end of the phone, who's very knowledgeable and will spend 2 days on the phone with you till you get your problem resolved. Sometimes they can't resolve your problem, and they'll tell you. So it's a great company to deal with. And later, we're going to show you some of the things that you have to do with CreateSpace. Don't worry about giving your credit card information, your bank accounts, and stuff like that to them. It's more secure than it is at Social Security Administration. So I've been dealing with them almost since they started in business. I've had nothing but fabulous experiences with them. It's an incredible way to go. Anyway, there's so many advantages to self-publishing that you don't get when you have a mainstream publisher. One of them is cost. You could end up spending easy. Talk to people who belong to the Writers Guild here in Palm Springs who have had books published. And they say, oh, I'm self-published. And they used Ex Libris or one of these vanity presses. They spend thousands of dollars, and they don't end up with anything. When I'm done, you're going to end up with more than they offer you, and it's going to cost you zippo, nothing, zero. So, CreateSpace. You log on to CreateSpace and start answering questions. Sign up, start a title for free, put in your email address, and create a password. So put your name, your email address, password, re-enter it, first name, last name, and what are you going to publish? They publish other things besides books. They publish music, they publish all kinds of things, videos. So you're going to publish a book, hit the button, create my account. Okay. You create the account, you put in the title of your book. You put the subtitle if you have one. The primary author is your name. And that's authored by and you know what? I don't know what that means. I don't know what they expect you to put in there, but it's a drop-down menu, and there's a what's this? Everywhere you have to insert something. And you click on it, and it tells you what to put in there. It tells you what they're looking for. Explains it even in English. It's terrific. So you don't even have to press any buttons to do it in English. It's automatically in English. You don't have to press one. Okay, so now I'm going to point out some certain things to you. They have defaults in there. They default the paper color that you're going to have your book to white. You can change that. This is white pages with black type. I like that better. I have one book here that was done on buff color paper. It looks like it's an older book because it looks like the paper just colored. I originally, when I did these books have all been edited 5 or 6 times and republished. I can't tell you how many times, but I changed all of my books from buff paper to white because I thought that buff paper was thicker, would give it more bulk, but it's not. The white paper has a little more substance to it. This is a book was published a long time ago for a lady who she attended one of my lectures actually, and she was a lawyer from Canada, and the book was originally called "Don't Do It That Way." That was the name of it, well, I don't want to talk about the details of it, but she was very successful with this book. She sold a lot of books. I edited it, I formatted it, and I designed the cover. You can't see it from here. It's a wedding picture that the glass has been smashed.
What if you want to use a pen name?
Why didn't I want to use a pen name?
No, I said if you want to use a pen name.
You put that in.
You put it in.
Where you want the name to appear on the book. So if you're using a pen name, use the pen name. And I would even open the account under the pen name.
You would open the account.
You can, yeah. Well, you can open it in your name because ultimately they're going to deposit royalties directly into your account. Your account's not in the name of your pen name. So, but just I'll go back to primary author. That's where you would put the pen name in here.
And then authored by, you put your
Authored by the pen name.
So if there's 2 authors, you're basically required to choose one for that?
If there's 2 authors, you can put both in.
Oh, you can?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
as a co-author. That's one of the choices, I think, on the drop-down. Right here. Okay. So it's going to default to white. 6x9 is the standard book size. Some books are a little bit bigger. Some books are smaller. Some books are 8.5 by 5.5. You have choices. You can choose the size of your book. Hardcover books are also, the pages are 6x9, but the covers make it a little bit larger because they extend over the edge of the pages. But 6x9 is a standard. This is called a perfect bound softcover book. Okay. They want to know about a bleed. these books are all formatted. There's no bleed on these. Nothing goes over the edge of the page. The reason for that is because these books are trimmed. They're printed on larger paper, and they're trimmed by this machine, and everything that's around the edges is going to get chopped off. So you want to format the book so that there's a margin wide enough for not to lose any print. And so you choose ends before the end of the page. That's where your print. Then it's time to upload your PDF interior file. That's the one we've already formatted with the drop caps, and it's beautiful. It looks great. It has to be in a print document format, a PDF. So that means you got to convert your Word document to a PDF file. Easy to do. It only takes a minute. Using Adobe Acrobat software, Primo PDF, Microsoft PDF. You go to your manuscript, you click on PDF to print it to PDF, and then you end up with a PDF file. And that's the file that you upload. So we're going to push Browse. And you're going to see a directory of all of your documents in your computer. Hopefully you've named this so that it's different from everything else. You don't just have to start pushing a whole bunch of buttons. You know what it's called. For simplicity, I called it My Book Compiled, PDF. And so I click on that, hit open, and it uploads. Oh, I hit open, and it should, let's see, where am I? We did this. No. Anyway, there it is. It brings up My Book Compiled, shows you what it found. And then you want to go to save. You want to save you save where you are. Go to the bottom of the screen. There's a thing that says Save Progress. Click on it. You'll see a bar, things moving across, and it's uploading that manuscript and saving it. Okay. Next on the agenda, we got the inside done. We got to do a cover. I'm going to stop and talk about covers for a minute. You're not going to be able to do this in the first step. It's not quite this easy. You got to create a cover. I don't know if I feel like I have some talent, so I do my own covers. CreateSpace has a division that will do covers for you. They'll format the interior of your book for you. They charge you for doing that. They have a template for formatting the interior of the book. You can use that if you don't want to go through what I just showed you, although I still think you have to tweak it to get lines to come to the right margin and eliminate the white spaces and things like that. They have book templates, cover templates that we're going to talk about because I use their templates for that. But somehow or another, you've got to create a cover. And so that's the first thing I do usually is I create the cover before I even think about publishing the book. And then I go to CreateSpace, I set up the account, and I get some very important information from them. I'll find a screen that has it. It's called the ISBN number. I'm not there yet. Okay, let me go back. Got a heavy thumb. You see these ISBN numbers up here? The title ID and the ISBN number? Every book, and every iteration of that book has a separate ISBN number. It's an International Standard Book Number. It's issued by a company called Boker, B-O-K-E-R, I think. To acquire an ISBN number, you have to get it from Boker. They control all the ISBN numbers for the entire Western Hemisphere, I think, especially, well, at least in the United States. And they cost $75 for the ISBN number, and you have to buy 10, a block of 10. So it becomes expensive. But when you do it through CreateSpace, they get you the ISBN number and assign it. They have God knows how many thousands of ISBN numbers under that they've already acquired. And every iteration of that book has its own ISBN number. One for the soft cover, one for a hard cover, different one for the e-book, different one for an audio book, a video. Every one of those has a different ISBN number. And that ISBN number also carries with it a barcode. You see that on the back of every book. It's the ISBN number and the price, I believe, that's embedded in that barcode. And CreateSpace provides all that. So when you signed up and put in your title, it assigned it gave you a choice. Do you want us to assign an ISBN number, or do you already have one? If you already have a book that's been published and you want to have it printed this way, you can use your own ISBN number. I learned all this the hard way because CreateSpace wasn't around when I started. And I tried the nightmare of trying to get published. Anyway, so they assign an ISBN number, and the first thing you should do once that shows up, and it shows up someplace in here. Anyway, I would stop at that point and go to my, you have to do this before you upload your manuscript. You go to your copyright page and insert that PDF, the ISBN numbers in the copyright page. That's where they belong. There are two of them. There's a 13-digit number and a 10-digit number. The 10-digit number are the old ISBN numbers. The 13-digit numbers are the new ISBN numbers, but they carry both in the book, at least, I don't know until what time, maybe 2020. Every ISBN number for any book created in North America starts with the numbers 978, and then the other 10 digits. So you got to get that into your book. They won't print it unless it's in there. So you got to stop. Once you get the ISBN number, go back and put it into your Word document on the copyright page, and then come back and create the PDF, and then come back and load it back up. Same thing with the cover. So let me go back. We're at the point where we're going to put our cover on the book. You want to come over here. Can everybody see this? Am I blocking it? It says how to make a cover PDF. Click on that, and you'll get a page. This is down near the bottom of the page. And you put in the specs. It's black and white. And that has to do with the width of the spine. It's a 6x9 trim size. It's 332 pages, white paper, build a template. Well, this is what you're going to, then you're going to see this. It says, click here to begin the download of a cover template. And the cover template contains a PDF version and a PNG version. The PNG, I don't know if you know about uploading JPEGs and stuff like that, but PNG is one form of digitized text or digitized pictures, and it doesn't degrade. JPEGs degrade. Every time you open them, they pixelate a little bit. PNG files do not. However, it takes forever to upload a PNG file, so they don't usually recommend it. Okay, so we're going to download it. And this is what you're going to get. You'll find it in your download folder on your computer. This document, when you download, when you put it into a working format, like into Paint, Microsoft Paint, or Adobe Photoshop, this thing is huge. It's 3.5 times the size of what you see on that screen. There's no computer screen wide enough or high enough to see the whole thing from one side to the other. And the reason for that is that to print these covers and have them look like anything, they have to be 300 dots per inch. The resolution has to be 300 dots per inch. The programs that you produce these images with produce about 96 dots per inch. And so if you tried to print it, it would be nothing but a blur. And so what they do is they create this huge document. You put your graphics on top of that, and then when it's uploaded, it's reduced to 6x9, and it's 300 dots per inch. Sometimes 296, but it's good enough. It's close enough. The spine, now the white space in this template is where everything that you want to see on that cover goes. You can't put anything that's orange, red, pink, whatever color they call that, is going to get, everything around the edges above the, for sure, above the dotted line is going to get lopped off when they trim the book. These lines are the folds in the cover. You can, if you look closely, you can see there's a fold line in here. And the text that's in here is in the white space only. Okay, so we've created a cover, our graphics, and it could be anything. I can show you. I'll show you some books I did for other people. There are photographs that were turned into covers. This book that I showed you was her picture was on her business card. I scanned it. I put her in a burqa, and I peeled the burqa back. That did it, on a paint program, and the book's called Uncovered, and it's about a Muslim woman, the eldest of 8 children in an impoverished family, 13 people living in a 2-room apartment with cement floors and not one stick of furniture or a flush toilet. Just kept having kids. Very fundamental Islamic family. She rejected Islam as a child, and she's quite a bright lady. And she nearly got killed. They beat the hell out of her. And she said, "Go ahead, kill me. That's the only way you're going to get me into a burqa. Put it on my dead body." And so, she's very brave. She fought her way out of Iran. She was from Pakistan. She was in Iran during the revolution and during the Iraqi war. The Ayatollah came there. She was working at the Swiss embassy. They wanted her to spy for them. She refused. They had soldiers in front of her, or these Red Guards, whatever they were, in front of her home. At the embassy, they were going to arrest her and imprison her. And the people at the embassy spirited her out of Iran. She ended up in Geneva, Switzerland. She was working for the Swiss embassy. And she didn't want to go back to Pakistan because nothing better was waiting for her there. She wanted to come to America. They got her to America in 1981. She's one of the top 10 realtors in L.A. She's really something special. Anyway, that was done from a photograph. Her name is Sarah Darabi, D-A-R-A-B-I. The book is available on Amazon.com. There's some great commentaries and reviews on it. It was a real thrill to work on this. I thought I was going to hang myself because it was written in East Indian idiomatic English. Up the street, the soldiers are coming down, that kind of stuff. And she compiled this manuscript over a long period of time as she thought of things. So nothing was in chronological order. She changed the names of all the characters, I don't know how many different times, and I never knew who she was talking about in the book. She changed the names of her siblings. She thought you couldn't use real names. And so the manuscript was 400 pages. There were 10 pages in that manuscript that described an argument that she had with her husband that lasted for 3 days. And I reduced it to one sentence. We went on vacation for 3 days and argued the entire time we were away. And that said it all. Nobody was interested in what he said and what she said. But it was an interesting story because of her childhood and what she went through and how she escaped from it and her feelings about Islam. She's a practicing Muslim, but she rejected fundamental Islam. She didn't want to be covered in a burqa, and she didn't want to be put into an arranged marriage. Her mother was 15 years old. She was married to her first cousin, who was 33 years old, in an arranged marriage in India. Around the time of the partition in 1947, I think. And she didn't want that kind of life for herself. And these people believe, honestly, they subscribe to this, that they have no control over their own lives. It's all controlled by fate. That everything that happens to you is ordained by Allah, and there's nothing you can do to change that. And she didn't believe that. And they tried to arrange a marriage for her when she was 15 years old. Her father rejected that, fortunately. Her mother was more fundamental than her father. And she had an interesting life. I mean, she really did. And the struggle that she went through when she came to America, she's been married twice, both times unsuccessfully. The first one was an Iranian Muslim. The second one was an American who converted to Islam, but he was a drug addict and took all of her money and killed himself. And so she's had a bad life. She's an attractive woman. She said to me, I haven't given up. She's 60 years old now. I said, Sarah, you're looking for somebody in all the wrong places. You keep going to that mosque, you're going to just find the same culture you tried to run away from. You want a husband's going to treat you like a princess? Go to a synagogue and find a nice Jewish man. So now that's the cover to this book, which I said is an autobiography. And that was inspired by a dream that involved a dead-end road. Anyway.
So is it written as a nonfiction book?
Yes.
Considered nonfiction?
It's nonfiction.
Okay.
It says on the cover, a nonfiction journey from creation to dust. and I'll tell you very quickly, I had a dream. It's a little over a year ago now. And I was driving down this narrow, winding road. It was very dark. And it was unfamiliar territory to me. And the moon it was a full moon, but it was very cloudy. And as the moon would break through the clouds, it would cast shadows of the trees along the side of the road. So I'm driving really, really carefully. And all of a sudden, the engine to the car sputtered and it stopped. And I'm in the dream thinking, oh, I started this journey with a full tank. How could I run out of gas? And then I see that there's a barrier at the end of the road. I put the high beams on and it said dead end. And so I wanted to see what was on the other side of the barrier, and it was just emptiness. It was a void, nothing. And then in the dream, I noticed that my chronic low back pain stopped bothering me. And then suddenly I woke up and I said, wait a second, did I come to the end of the road or was it a dream? And it was 4:30 in the morning. I looked at the clock and I could not shake that dream. I thought about it for a week or more. You die suddenly, you don't expect it. What do you leave behind? What do you remember of your life? What is anybody else going to remember your life? And I started, next thing you know, I found myself in 1830 finding out about the man for whom I was named in Russia. And I went from there, creation, and traced the family, and then through all the ordeals of my life. I had some bad times. I don't know how I survived it. I swear, I survived it for reasons that I do understand. But it became a cathartic experience because I started reliving all this stuff from my past. Some of it not so good, and depressed having to relive those times, and excited about the things that really worked out for me. And in the book, I say, if I had my life to live over, would I do it again? Probably. Would I change anything? Probably not. I'd make the same mistakes, do the same dumb stuff, because those mistakes contributed to the eventual successes. And so I say, don't mourn for me, because I had a pretty good life. There's nothing in my credit column that's owed to me. Everything, my bucket list is empty. Okay, I've done everything I wanted to do, been everywhere, seen everything, experienced everything I ever wanted to do, and I was lucky. And so, how do you end a book like that? I ended it at 81 years old, on a ladder 16 feet from the floor, fixing a battery in a smoke detector, and the ladder starts sliding down the wall. That's it. I retired from retirement. I've retired from everything. And so I wrote my obituary. It's because of my crazy sense of humor. There was a picture of me at 6 months old sitting on a pony. And that picture's always been floating around somewhere. And I said, when I die, I want that published in my obituary. Ron Sharrow, horseman. And so I put that picture in the back of the book with a black thing around it. And I said that my wife realized that I must have died peacefully in my sleep at some point during the 3 days when I didn't curse my computer, talk to the dog, and she just thought I was dozy, so I must have just fallen, just died peacefully. And she spread my ashes in the salons where she gets her manicures, her pedicures, her facials, her hair colored, her hair done, the gym where she does her Zumba classes and all those, and the massage parlor, and the rest of the ashes are spread on Madison Avenue and Fifth Avenue, New York, where she can visit me and mourn while she's shopping. And so that's how it, and the last chapter is called Waiting. I'm waiting till I get to the dead end sign. So I had a good time essentially writing it, but it's quite a departure from the stuff that I've written all along, and the stuff I've written for other people. I've published a bunch of books for other people, and either ghostwritten them, edited them, done the covers, whatever. I have a good time doing it. So that was the graphics. Now you'll notice that this was created on top of that template. There's your pink edge all the way around. So I made sure that all this stuff was inside those white lines, and the cover, there's your 2 fold lines, and that's in the white space of the cover. And so that's how it was created. Then I filled in all the red edges. You don't know exactly where it's going to trim, and you don't want to see any white edges around the edge of your book. So I just highlighted and dragged the edges all the way around so that it filled the whole space. Now comes time to go to upload the cover. We've got our file.
How did you know how wide to make the spine?
The template.
You don't know how many pages.
Oh yeah. $332 pages. I knew that from the PDF file. That's how the book, the story itself. I don't know how many pages are front pages and back pages in that book, but I think there's 315 or 316 pages to the inside of the book, plus the front pages and the back pages. So that's the reason for the template, because it gives you the exact width of the spine. And now we're going to come back to create space. We've got our graphics. They're on a template. We're going to hit launch cover creator. And it's going to take us to a section in their website that has a whole bunch of covers that you can use. The graphics are there. You can customize them for your own book. There's 30 of them on 5 pages with all kinds of stuff on them. I choose not to use those. Some people just want a book with a cover on it, so they find a cover that they like, and it puts all the other information in for you. I skipped to page 4 because this cover is made to accommodate your graphics that you just upload right over top of that. So I choose that one, and I come down here in the corner. You can't see it, but it says OK. And when I click on that, we get this. That's the image of the cover we're going to overlay. We click on Upload. And there we go with our directory again. I find the cover that I want, dead end, right at the top. I click open. And then we get this. We see our screen again. That little thing that's circled is spinning around. And there's a bar that you'll see over here showing you the progress of the upload. It's a huge document, incidentally, because it's graphics. It's I'm going to say probably 10, at least 10 megabytes, maybe more. So it takes a while to upload. I say a while, probably close to a minute. And then the next thing you'll see is that it's uploaded. It's filled that space. And although I filled the edges of the cover template, it still shows you the trim area. But we know that it's dark. There's no space between the edge of that book and that red space. So we know it's going to print. And can also, one of the other features, you can hover your cursor over this and this on the cover, and it'll show you if it's centered. Very often you have to make some kind of adjustment. And even after you do that, this was the first batch of books that I got, that spine is not centered. It's too high. And so when I've edited it so many times, I kept moving it down a speck or two until I'm certain that the email I'm going to have waiting for me tonight, this afternoon when I get home, is going to say your books, your files are printable in their present state, and please proof the book. And I'll go in to proof it. There's 3 ways to proof the book, and I'll use one of them, and I guarantee you that I'll find something else I want to change. but I've made up my mind that whatever's left in there now is going to stay there. I'm not going to change it. And nobody else would notice it probably but me. And so we'll hit next. And we see our progress. You see the green check marks? Whoops. The green check marks, where are we? Yeah, the green check marks. Title information is done, ISBN number is done, physical properties are done, interior is done, cover is done, cover finish is done. We still have to put in the description, the channels, the pricing, and then we're going to get back to publish on Kindle. So essentially, the book is done. It's set up, and we're left now with 2 things. We have to save our progress, because now we've got to save everything we've done, including the cover, the interior, and all of that. Now we're going to move on to the description. And this shows you your progress as you go each time. It tells you that what's complete and what's incomplete. So I'm going to save my progress. Can't submit it. It won't accept the submission without having completed everything. And then we're going to go to our what's called a member dashboard. This is your book. My book. It's incomplete. 11 alerts. That means that they've sent you different notices by email, and you can come in and read them or delete them or do whatever you want with them. But so you always come back to this. You remember dashboard. I have in my page is full, and I come in and I click on it. And it tells me how much I got coming in royalties. It tells me what the status is all the time. And I've taken one book I republished because it was 120 some pages, 125 pages or something, and it was a book of short stories that came from that journal. And I used it as a promotional tool because it had excerpts from some of my books in it. And when I would lecture I went to a class reunion, a 60th year class reunion in Baltimore. I had 120 books shipped to a friend of mine in Baltimore, so they'd be there when I got there. And I gave them to everybody who came to the class reunion. And you know, just it was a fun thing to do, and book sales soared afterwards. but I use them. So an electrician comes to the house and fixes something. I sign on one of those books and give it to him. But I wanted to beef it up, so I made it a 200 and some odd page book, and republished it. And I had to get a new ISBN number, and so it's a second edition. But other than that. I took the first version off. I said, I unpublished it. Just a click of the mouse. Okay, where are we? We're going to go to our return to project homepage. There's the ISBN numbers up here. That's the 13, and that's the 10. Okay, so everything is done, except for return to product homepage. And that's what this looks like. And I'm going to go on channels. That's the channels of distribution. Click on that. And this is what you see. Your book. When you click on select, it turns the arrow blue. So Amazon.com, certainly we want to distribute through them. Amazon Europe, why not? Amazon, or CreateSpace creates a page for you in their website. So if somebody wants to buy your book, they can go to CreateSpace and buy it. And there's a big difference in the royalties. I'll show it to you on the next screen, or one of the screens. Okay, so this is these are the standard distribution channels, and they're free. Free. So my favorite 4-letter words right there. And then you come to the expanded distribution, and that's bookstores and online retailers. libraries and academic institutions, and CreateSpace Direct. Save and continue. Always save and continue everything. Now we go back and you see now that, where are we? The channels are checked now in green, and we're left with pricing. File review, proof your book, and don't forget Kindle, publish on Kindle. Okay. So now we're going to go to pricing. And we put a price of $19.95. We hit calculate. It tells you you're going to get $7.14 in royalties if it's sold through Amazon.com. You're going to get $11.13 if it's sold through the CreateSpace store that they create for you on their website. And expanded distribution, you get $3.15, and I'm going to explain the variation of these prices. Amazon Europe, I guess that's euros, $4.41, and Amazon Europe, if the book is printed in Europe, you get $6 or 6.32 euros. And this is the price it would sell for in each of those categories. Now, the question is, what's it cost you for these books? This book cost me $4.83. It's 370 pages. That's as you see it. That's what it cost me.
Was that on demand?
This is on demand. If you buy 1 copy or 500 copies, same price.
Same price.
Now, you're not married to CreateSpace. Once it's published, you can have it printed anywhere you want. You can send it to China and order 5,000 copies if you want. So you own the book. You own the ISBN numbers. You own the content. It's yours. It's copyrighted, and we'll talk about copyrights too. So that's where we are. We go back and we see now everything is complete. Interior, cover, description, channels, pricing. And what do? We submit it for review. They tell you that when you click that button, you're going to see this. Files are checked within 24 hours. Hit continue, go home, go away, go have dinner. Next day, I've never seen anything take 24 hours. Usually within 12 hours, it's a done deal. You'll get, when you go back to your home page, you see now everything is checked off except proof your book. Files being reviewed by them. When it's reviewed, this changes to a little clock. But channels are done, pricing's done, cover, description, publish on Kindle. That keeps popping up. Okay. While we're waiting for that email, there's other things that they need to know. You got to set up your account. So edit account settings. Might as well. That's up there. Click. See my account. Okay, click on that, and then hit Edit Account Settings. 4 different pieces of information they want. And again, you can trust anything you give them. It's secure, I can tell you that. The account information contains things like your password. If you want to change it at any time, you can go in and change it. There's some other information in there that they need. This is the especially important one because that's where they deposit your royalties. They'll send you a check, but it's much more efficient to have them direct deposit it. And they send you a 1099 at the end of the year. So I get three or more 1099s from Amazon. I get CreateSpace, whatever was purchased out of the CreateSpace store. I get from Amazon.com, I get 3 usually from them because I don't know, people in Europe are buying my books. I don't know how they're even finding out about them. I'm too lazy to promote them. But I have the same character in each book. And so people latch onto the character. They say, oh, he's a cool guy, he's a neat guy, I hate him or whatever. But they want to see what he's going to get into next, so they buy the next book. I mean, I'm like that. The people I read, I'm a voracious reader. I read, on average, maybe 3 or 4 books a week when I'm not writing. And I buy the same authors all the time. They could publish a book with no words in it. I would buy it if it's got their name on the cover because I like their character. Lee Child, I don't know if anybody reads him. Lee Child was here at the Writers' Festival this past January, and I got to talk with him, and I gave him a copy of one of my books, and he signed one of his books for me. Anyway, his character is a guy named Jack Reacher, and there was a movie about one of his books. I forgot what it was called, but Tom, what's his name? Cruise, yeah. Tom, I should know that, Cruise, yeah. Isn't he running for president? Anyway, I said that Jack Reacher, the character in the book, is 6'5", weighs 240 pounds. And he's a rough, tumble guy, military policeman, traveling around the country with a portable toothbrush and the clothes on his back and living off of his pension. And he's a rough and tumble guy. Well, Lee Child is 6'4" or 5", but he's skinny as a rail. And I said to him, "Is there an autobiographical component to your character?" He says, "All but the violence." And so I mentioned him because that Jack Reacher is quite a character. I want to see what he's going to get into next, and so I keep buying his books to see what Jack Reacher's up to. An interesting comment that he made: Reacher's a huge guy. Tom Cruise is he's a midget practically. And I said, "How'd you feel about them casting him?" He said, "He doesn't care. He's still 6'5" in all my books in the libraries and everywhere." So anyway, that's where your royalty payments go. So you got to give them information about your bank account and the routing numbers and stuff like that. They make direct deposits. The billing profiles, they want your credit card number and some other stuff because you're going to buy books and they want to know how they're getting paid. So they just automatically charge them to whatever information you've given them for billing. And they're going to want to ship them to you so you can give them all the shipping details. You never have to re-enter that again unless you want them shipped someplace else. Then you can go in and change it, even temporarily, even for one book. I want to go back for a minute to the pricing. There's a cover price on all these books, and it's embedded in this barcode. You're not going to find too many of your books on the bookshelves of Barnes & Noble or any of the hard book stores. Because number one, they don't buy books unless it's from a publisher. Although Barnes & Noble did buy some of my books to put on their shelves. I went and I talked with the local person here. Anyway, it's a whole different world. I got to tell you, I had a publisher at one time and an agent, and along with some other people who she published for, cheated everybody out of their royalties, and gave me some good ideas. Don't deal with agents and publishers if you can avoid it. But she said to me that she could get my books on the shelves of every Barnes & Noble in the country. That's about 10,000 books, if they just put three of your books on the shelf. And so that sounds great, except that if they don't sell them, they return them to the distributor. And he returns them to the publisher. And the publisher sends you a call and says, "Come pick up some books. I got 14 cases of books here that you have to pay me for, and it's $45,000. Well, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to return more of my books than they're going to sell. and we showed you numbers of what you get in royalties on these self-published books. If a person like Stuart Woods or Patterson, you know how much money they get for a hardcover book when it's sold? Somewhere between 50 and 80 cents. Because they're the last person in the food chain that gets fed. The writer's the last person that sees any money. So here's a book with a cover price of, I don't know, $19.95. Yeah, $19.95. If you walked into Barnes & Noble and said, "I want this book by Ron Sharrow," they put it in their computer, it comes right up. It's distributed by Ingram. They're the largest book distributor in North America. It's on their computer. They order the book. Ingram gets it, goes to CreateSpace. They print one and ship it to Barnes & Noble. They have it in 2 days. Barnes & Noble gets 55% off of the cover price. CreateSpace charges for printing it. Ingram gets a cut for distributing it. And so that's why your price, if it's sold in a bookstore, your royalty is a whole lot less than it is if it's sold by Amazon or if it's sold by CreateSpace. The difference is that whatever his name, Lee Childs or whoever, gets 80 cents maybe for one of his books, and you're getting $5. He sells 3 million books, and you sell one. So it's just crunching numbers. But that's the reason there's a huge difference between what you get if it's sold at a bookstore, if you get what it's sold at Amazon or wherever. Amazon's pretty good. That you get 70% of the cover price as a royalty as a rule from Amazon. I'm sorry, that's on Kindle books. Because don't forget, there's nothing. Kindle's air. There's nothing you can hold on to. There's no cover. There's no printing cost. There's no shipping cost. There's no nothing. It's just there. Let's talk about Kindle for a second. One of the tabs on here is Publish on Kindle. You press that. They will convert your print document to a Kindle format book. They convert the cover, graphics. They convert the interior. They convert everything. There's a problem with doing that. I've tried it, and I wasn't happy with the result. I use a lot of drop caps in my formatting. That doesn't digitize. It comes up as a big letter someplace on the page, not necessarily where the first character should be. It doesn't recognize the right-hand justification. It doesn't recognize numbers. It doesn't recognize the headers. Of course, when CreateSpace does it, they take all that out. They take out the numbers. They take out the headers. But they can't take out the digitized drop caps and stuff. And I found when publishing on Kindle, you can go directly to Kindle, Kindle Direct, and upload an unformatted document. Comes out perfectly on an e-reader. It's right-hand margin justified. Everything is in the right place. You can use maybe a bold letter for with maybe a little larger font face for the first letter if you want to do that. But it isn't necessary. It comes out beautifully formatted. And so you don't have to do anything. Just take your bunch of words on a page and upload it to Kindle Direct. Just open an account and upload it. It's free. All this is free. So I don't recommend using Kindle, having it converted from CreateSpace, unless it doesn't have all the enhanced text in it. Other things that digitizing the manuscript eliminates, if you've used like an ellipsis in the text. I use ellipsis all the time when I'm creating dialogue, because people have a natural tendency to interrupt or to stop or to change thoughts in mid-sentence, and so the ellipsis is a perfect way to convey that. I use a lot of M dashes for the same purpose in narrative, the break in thought in a narrative. And that comes out in a digital book as a little square. So that's why I prefer to just upload an unformatted document.
All the other things that CreateSpace does for you when you go directly to Kindle, will they give you the ISBN number also?
Yes. Kindle assigns that. It's an AISN number, not ISBN. Anyway, I don't know what it stands for. I never bothered to find out. So now we're back at our member dashboard, and lo and behold, my book is awaiting proof because they're reviewing it. I don't know how that got in there. I changed that, and it's not there anymore. Anyway, you get a chance to proof your book. There are three ways to do it. One is a virtual book on their website. It's actually, you look at it, and you push a button, and you see the pages flipping over. And you can read that. You can check the cover. You can read the whole thing. You can look at the formatting. And if you see anything, then you have an option. You can approve it or you can change it. If you change it, you go through the whole review process again. It's not a big deal. It doesn't take very long. By the time you finish making the changes you want to make, the review process is already done. So just go back and reload it. The other way is with a PDF. They'll send you a PDF file by email, or they'll download it right into your computer, actually. But it's the same PDF file that you uploaded. So it's no different from the one you already have in your computer. And the third way is to order a print copy of the book. it'll be this book, but on the last page it'll say proof. And I got to tell you something from my own experience. I'm always in too much of a hurry, so I proof it online. And then I look at it, I flip through the pages, and I don't see anything glaring. I say, okay, approve, and then it's done. It's a done deal until I get the book. And then I start reading it, and I see all kinds of mistakes. I found, though, that proofing the PDF file is a great backup because you see things on it that you wouldn't see in a normal manuscript in a Word document. For one thing, you can enlarge the type on a PDF file. You can get up to 175 or 200 magnification, and anything that's wrong jumps off the page at you, like the hyphens in the wrong place, misspelled words, missing commas. There's all kinds of stuff that you'll pick up on a PDF file. So I like to proof it first on the computer, and then I come back and I look at my own PDF file, and I review it more carefully, and I always find stuff that a misspelled word or something, and I just go and redo it, make a new PDF file and reload it. What stuff? Oh, the stuff. Well, this is called self-publishing. It's like self-roofing. You know, you decide you need a new roof. You go out and you buy a ladder. You go up, you take off the old roof. You buy some shingles and some nails and some glue and whatever else you put a roof on with, and you go up and you do it. Now, if you get somebody to go up on the ladder and take the roof off for you, it's not self-roofing anymore. Now you've paid somebody else to do it. So you've got these Ex Libris and some of the others, a bunch of them around, they shepherd your book like, my first experience was with Ex Libris, first book. At $700, we'll get your book published, and we're going to do this, we're going to proof it, we're going to do your cover, we're going to do everything for $700. $1,600 later, I still didn't have a book, and they were charging me $1 a word after 25 words to edit it. And I didn't like the cover they created, so I used my own. And then if I wanted them to sell it or to distribute it, that's more money. It would end up costing me $10,000 to have that book fully, like a regular publisher. And that's called self-publishing. That's not self-publishing, that's vanity press. We're going to make you a published author. That's catering to your vanity, and we're going to charge you up the kazoo for it. My second experience was with a real publisher and editor. An agent. That was a nightmare. In fact, it's in this book. She promised me all kinds of stuff. I paid her in advance to buy books. She would buy this many books. And so she was going to do all these wonderful things. She did nothing. And so I kept calling her. I never got a return call. I left messages. I sent her emails. I wrote her letters, sent them registered mail. I said, here's a date. By that date, I want the books that I paid you for, and I want my royalties from these other books that you've already done, or I'm going to I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get it. Never heard from her. So I sued her. I'm a lawyer. I know how to do that. So I went to small claims court. Of course, I never practiced law in California. In California, I don't care what anybody says. This is not part of the United States. Don't tell everybody. And so I go to small claims court. I paid to have the sheriff serve her. Next thing I hear from her. No, I've never been sued before. Why did you sue me? I said, because I was too chicken shit to come with a gun to your house. Well, what am I supposed to do? I said, you're supposed to give me my books, give me my money, or both. I don't care what you do. But so I have a friend who's a judge. He'll take care of it. I said, I hope he does it before the deadline, because if he doesn't, I'm going to end up owning your cat too. And so eventually, her husband came trundling down my front walk with a luggage cart full of boxes of books. But relative to that, I'm going to talk about Barnes & Noble for a second and having books on the bookshelf. So I went and I talked to them, and they said, okay, they bought some books from the distributor, and they had, I don't know, maybe 10 books on the shelf. And we had scheduled a book signing, which was a pretty exciting thing. So I first book, I go there, and my agent, God bless her, said, sign every book they have on the shelf. They cannot return books that are marked or have are signed. So the first thing I did when I got there that day, signed every book on the shelf. We sold 6 or 8 books that day. And then we scheduled a second signing right before Christmas. And I get a call from Barnes & Noble and said, listen, we got to cancel the signing. Now, I had been on a television show, I'd been on a radio show, I'd been talking about the book and promoting the book signing. I said, why? She said, we don't have any books. We didn't order any more books. I said, not to worry. I've got a trunk full of books. I'll bring my books, you sell them, and we worked out that they were going to pay me 80% of the cover price. So I show up for the second book signing, sold some more books. They sold them. They collected the money for them. A year later, I finally got paid for the books. But not long after that, I get a call from my agent publisher. Listen, I got some books that were returned from Ingram. I said, where were they returned from? She says, Barnes & Noble returned them. I said, where'd they get them? I never saw any royalty for books bought from Ingram. The only royalties I know about were the books that I signed. And I thought you couldn't return signed books. Oh, these books aren't signed. I said, where did they come from if they're not signed? And she couldn't answer me. She didn't know. And I mean, nobody had bought them. But as it happened, I didn't have any books myself, and so I needed some books. And I paid, I think, like $11 a book to get them. And so there were about 5 or 6 of them, and I bought those. And then I go online just to see where my books are. You know, and I see some bookseller in England selling an autographed copy of my book for $150. Now, I was curious to see who signed it, but I wasn't going to spend $150 to find out. And so I said, it occurred to me, maybe Barnes & Noble sold those books to some bookseller because they were signed and they couldn't return them. Maybe that's where they came from. Or maybe these people just figure if anybody's stupid enough to pay $150 for an autographed book from me, and you can't read my writing anyway, maybe they would just take the order and then order one of my books and try to get me to sign it. I don't know. But it was an interesting experience. I mean, can you imagine saying, go ahead, just fill all the bookstores with books? I would have owed them $55,000. I mean, at $11 a book. And I don't have enough room in my garage for all those books. And so it was kind of an interesting experience. But that's typical of what happens in the industry. The distributor, no one is responsible for anything. If they don't sell your book, they just send it back. And then you end up paying for it. And you know, you publish with HarperCollins or any one of the main publishers, they don't give you a royalty anymore up front. I mean, they don't give you any promotional anything. If they spend $5,000 or $10,000 for an ad in the New York Times, they deduct it from your royalties. And so, I mean, you got to be some kind of great writer and win a Pulitzer Prize to make any money writing books. If you do it for fun like I did, fortunately, I was successful enough practicing law, I was able to retire and not have to worry about what I'm selling my books for. But it's tough. But it's a great, listen, there's nothing more exciting than opening a package that's got your book in it. It's a great experience. Ask Alan Tossman. His book is here. So let's assume now we've approved the book, and we look, and lo and behold, our dashboard says available, order books. Now, you don't have to order a single book. There is no limit. You can order none, 1, 500. It makes no difference. They don't care if you buy a book or not. And within, I don't know if it's they say within 24 hours. I think within minutes, your book shows up on Amazon.com. That's a book. A photograph was used for the cover. I wrote that. I didn't write it. I published it for friends of my neighbor, that was their daughter who was just tragically killed in a fire. But she had written a lot of poetry during her life that nobody really knew much about. And they found it in her computer, and her mother wanted to publish it posthumously. So I did that book for them. My book is the one we're talking about right now. I just created that from nothing. And then this book is interesting. This guy, Michael Brown, is a 3-time Emmy Award-winning screen editor and a fantastic storyteller. And I edited that book, designed the cover, and had it published. It's called William and Lucy. He's an English literature buff, and he William Wordsworth, who was the granddaddy of modern-day poets, had written a series of love poems to a woman named Lucy, but no one's ever been able to find a Lucy in his life anywhere. So he created a fictional account of a gal named Lucy that fell in love with William Wordsworth, or he fell in love with her, and it's this great love story. And he said he had this languishing in his computer for a long time, and we met at a party, actually, he said he thought about getting it published. He said, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. So he sent me the manuscript. I edited it for him, and I got so caught up in the story. He said, it's not something you'd be interested in. It's, it's like a love story. I couldn't put it down. I swear to God, I forgot to edit it. I just kept reading it. So eventually we got it edited, and there it is. That was edited, when was that? March. I thought they put the edit, December the 8th, 2011 it was published. So there you are on Amazon within hours of the time you push the button. Cost to do all that? Zero, nothing, cost nothing.
Regarding your own books, when it's a done deal in one running, and you get it back, and you see some errors.
Change it.
Have you learned, though, to roll with that? The idea that, okay, you've got a book out there that's got some errors in it.
The minute you change it, it's not out there anymore.
But I meant in the print form. Do you pre-buy books, or do everything on demand?
Everything's on demand.
Okay.
Now, I pre-buy some books because I have obligations to people who help me with the book, technical information. My kids, I send them books. Who else do I have? The library. They're kind enough to put my books in the library. So I get 2 books, I endorse them to the patrons of the library, and they're sitting on the
I
shelf.
guess all I'm thinking, when something's in print like those, and you know there's a few errors there, have you just learned that, hey, that's the way it is, and you correct it when you can?
Yeah.
Just emotionally?
Well, I emotionally can't deal with it at all. It has to be changed instantly. I can't. I'll give you some ideas. Here's a little book, and I'll tell you what this book ended up costing this guy, and I'll tell you why. It ended up costing about $125,000, but it didn't cost him any money out of his pocket. Loophole is written by a guy named Clyde Munsell. Clyde lives in Frank Sinatra's old estate up in Pinyon Pines. He's a lawyer, and his specialty is federal tax cases, federal tax evasion and stuff like that. He comes to me one time, and he's got this folder full of papers every which way, and he said, "You think I could do anything with this?" Oh, and he had it on a video, sitting in an easy chair telling these stories. They're pretty interesting. And so I said, well, maybe do an anthology, a short story book with these things in it. So he said, well, what would you charge me to do it? I said, Clyde, first of all, it's not in a computer, and I'm not going to retype those things. Oh, my son can convert it. I said, okay. Well, and then we get to talk about other things. And I happened to, at the time, have been involved in one of the horrible periods of my life with Internal Revenue Service. They decided I owed them $250,000 plus penalties and interest. I didn't know them a dime. And it ended up in tax court. And he said, I'll represent you for free if you do my book. Well, I don't pass up on a thing like that. His fees are around $125,000. So here's Clyde's book, and here I am. I'm not in jail, and I ended up settling with IRS after 5 years for $2,000. So that's the story of Clyde's book. Sarah's a different story. I charged her for doing this. I didn't charge her enough because I was making myself crazy trying to figure out what the hell she was talking about in this thing. But it turned into a great book. And the book begins with a nursery rhyme, not a nursery rhyme, a fairy tale, very short fairy tale. And it was a fairy tale told to her by her uncle when she was a small child. And she lived her life to go to the place talked about in this fairy tale, and it turns out the place is America. I get chills when I think about it. And it goes from there. She says, I always love that bedtime story. And then it goes into her flight from Geneva to America and what she was experiencing first time, knew no one, by herself, no money, no resources, no nothing. And it went on from there until the current time. And it turned into a great book. And she's a terrific lady. Anyhow, so that's the story of that one. This lady I told you, she's a divorce lawyer in Canada. She used the term, of course, 176 times in a 200 and some odd page book. She used a lot of parenthetical expressions that added nothing but detracted from the reading experience. And so she gave it to me to edit. I edited a couple chapters. It says, you changed everything. I said, how many times in one paragraph are you going to say, of course? and so she wanted it back to the way she had it. That's the way it's published, and I did the cover for her. And she sold a lot of books too. But I don't know, most people, maybe they can't read. I don't understand. William and Lucy, I told you about. This is a fun book to read. This is a really good book. He's written another book since then, and he's working on his third. His second book was called Love, Sex, and Other Life-Endangering Experiences. And it was hysterical from the first page to the last. It was just a really funny book. He's a great storyteller. This little guy is Alan Tossman. Came to one of the seminars. He was having trouble with something. Came over to my house. And how long did it take us? A couple hours, I guess. We got uploaded and published. Everything in here is his. He was having trouble getting the pages numbered because he didn't have those section breaks in the right places. But we straightened it out, and there it is. He's very happy. He's gonna do a new version of that. Anyway, there was a slide in here someplace that had pictures of all the covers. Oh, I showed it to you. Anyway, that's it. So 2 ways to publish: Kindle and print. And this is the easiest way I know of to get a book in print. There's no aggravation other than self-imposed aggravation because you made mistakes.
Do you have to have a copyright page?
Yes.
Otherwise somebody can print it.
Well, no, otherwise they won't print it. But let's talk about copyright. The copyright laws in this country are very liberal. The minute you put a period at the end of the last sentence in your book, it's yours, it's copyrighted. How do you prove it? The old days, you used to take the manuscript, put it in an envelope, mail it to yourself, and never open it when it came back because it had a postmark on it, and you could show that there was a document in that envelope. These days, with as fast as this stuff gets published and gets out in the public domain, it's just a done deal. There's a Library of Congress. You can have a book registered with the Library of Congress. I've forgotten what it costs. I think maybe $35. And there's a thing in the front of each of these books on the copyright page.
What's the legal implications of the ISBN number? What is
That's
that?
to identify the book.
Okay. As
All
your
books
book, right?
as
As the author's book?
well, not as the author's book, but as a book that's been published, as a published book. This is the copyright page. You'll find on every book anywhere, and it simply says copyright 2007 and 2016 because she I don't know, somehow or another she wrote it. She did something with it in 2007, and so I put it in there. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system without express permission of the copyright owner, has her name, how to reach her. And then it says, this is a work of nonfiction. Some names have been changed to protect the identity of participants. Library of Congress cataloging and publication. That means that somewhere along the line you're going to submit this to the Library of Congress. Her name, the title of the book, printed in the United States, uncovered by Sarah Darabi, nonfiction, autobiography, ISBN 10, ISBN 13, they're in there. And as a little tip, self-published books don't have, I don't know, the perception of the public as being, a published book, unless it's got a publisher. And so you can do several things. Michael Brown created his own publishing company. It's called Tarn Publishing. Tarn, anybody know what Tarn is? Michael knew. It was in his book, and I called him up. I said, what the hell is a tarn? It's a small seagull. I said, why don't you put a small seagull in there? Nobody's reading the book's going to know what a tarn is. He said, then to hell with them. If they're not smart enough to know that, leave it in there. So he started this thing, Tarn Publishing. It's a picture of a seagull. My books, I created a publishing company a long time ago called Bare Bones Publishing. It's in most of the books here. I don't know if I put it in Clyde's book. No. Anyway, it's in my book. It's on the copyright page, and it's usually at the back of the book, and it's on the cover. Bare Bones Publishing. Now, it's the name I made up, and I made a logo, and I put it in the book, and it gives it some credibility. I don't know why, just in the mind of whoever looks at it, oh, it's published by a publisher.
Is there an additional expense for doing that?
No. I mean, if you wanted to, well, in my thing, I'm going to send you an email. I offer the Bare Bones Publishing logo if you want to put it in your book. But just let me know about it first. Don't go out and publish a book of pornography and then put my logo in. Well, it's okay if you send me a copy. Go ahead. Same price, too. Go ahead.
If someone's writing, I like the idea you keep that big blank space, but what do you think about, I often like to see and use either little quotes at the front chapter or a little illustration.
You can do anything you want.
Do you think that's detracting or?
It depends on how it's used. I've put pictures at the beginning of a chapter in a book. This book has all kinds of pictures in it.
The other question then is, I have ideas with the things I want on the cover. How do I get the permission? Because there are other people's artwork or photographs.
Who owns the pictures?
Well, I don't know. I have to.
Where'd you get them?
Well, I've had them for years in cards and.
It's problematic. If it's, it depends on if it's copyrighted. I put together one of my books is a 500-page joke book. I accumulated jokes in my computer over a 20-year period of time. If somebody sent me a joke in an email, maybe chuckle or laugh out loud, I kept it. And pretty soon I didn't have room in my computer for anything else. I was getting ready to toss them. I said, you know what? These things are funny, some of them. So I categorized them, I indexed them, and I cross-referenced them, and I wrote a book called Jokes in a Plain Brown Wrapper. And the plain brown wrapper is sexually explicit material, usually delivered in a plain brown wrapper. And there was a cartoon that was, that just struck my funny bone. It was a woman receiving a package in a plain brown wrapper. And the delivery man had his truck parked in her driveway, and on the side of the truck it said, the dildo store, with a big dildo on the top of the truck. That caught my funny bone. And I wanted to use that as a plate in the book, but I could not find the copyright owner. I didn't know who, and I was afraid to put it in there. So I called the book Jokes in a Plain Brown Wrapper, and I told the story of the cartoon in the book. So you got to be careful. Some things like this cover is a assembled bunch of stuff from the internet. It's out there in the public domain. I took a silhouette. I turned this into a silhouette because there's an inspector following William Wordsworth around in the book, and they're on the beach walking. And I took this background was from, I don't know what it was from, something on the internet I found, and so That's stuff that's in the public domain. There are a lot of sites on the internet that have all kinds of pictures of anything and everything you want, but they're usually copyrighted, and they have copyright embedded across the face of the picture, so can't use that stuff.
Are you familiar with Shutterstock?
Yes,
Yeah. Some very
they have some very
reasonable
interesting
stuff.
things on Shutterstock.
Very reasonable.
Well, I don't know how reasonable they are.
Sometimes $10.
You know, that's not bad. And there are other places where you can buy one time, you don't have to pay royalties or anything like that. You know, there's all kinds of illustrations out there. This was assembled from a whole bunch of different things on the internet. I Googled dead end signs. I found a whole bunch of different kinds of dead end signs. I picked one that I liked. It was a bullet riddled and messed up. And then I road barriers. I found one that had this kind of, pieces of wood in it, and I made 4 of them and compiled them into a sign. The poles came from, I don't know, some company. The book, let's see, Busted. I don't have that book with me. But I went to a website that sells police equipment, and they had a picture of handcuffs that they were selling. So I did a screen print, altered it, did some changes to it, and put a picture of their handcuffs. So I'm like, it's not copyrighted. It's handcuffs are handcuffs. So I used that.
How do you promote your books?
I wish I could answer that question. I know how I promoted them, and I've had success with it, not overwhelming success, but I get royalties every month, and I've done it the lazy way. The easiest way to promote books today is through social media, online. Facebook, this lady, Sarah, she has about 700 people on her Facebook thing. And she sent them a picture of this book and a thing that she just published it, and sold the hell out of books. That's everybody promotes social media as the best way to sell books. It reaches the most people in the shortest period of time, and it's free. CreateSpace has a department that will help you to promote your book. They charge for all that stuff, but it's available if you want to use it. There are book publicists around. I'm on the Speaker Series Commission for the City of Rancho Mirage, and one of the commissioners with me is a book publicist. He was Johnny Carson's publicist for many, many years until Johnny Carson retired. I don't know what he charges, but he publicizes books. I lecture all the time. I do lectures about creative writing and about publishing, and I don't know, every now and then somebody will buy a book. I see a spike in some of the sales. They give you regular reports of any books that are sold. And I'm amazed. I'm amazed. That joke book, I've never promoted it at all. There's not one month goes by that a couple of those books aren't sold. Yes?
Well, thank you very much for doing this seminar.
Thank you.
Fantastic. But one question that arises for me is you mentioned that you helped other people edit their books or put their books
Yes.
together. So are you willing to do that with people who are reading it?
Yes.
Or what is
The answer is yes.
okay? What is
But I'm very particular. There are standard fees around from people who do this kind of stuff. I think that going rate for editing is a nickel a word. And they just do a word count of the book. An average 300-page book has about 95,000 words. And so at a nickel a word, what's that, about $300 to $500 about? Maybe a little less. Yeah, it's a little under $500. Most people charge $3 to $5 a page to format a book. I charge $1 a page, and I'm just because I don't want to do it for free. It takes a lot of time. I spent 3 months full time on this book. 3 months from the day I received the manuscript until the day it was uploaded. 3 months. And I'm still messing with it because I read it after I got it, and I found a couple of things I didn't like. And I've already changed the manuscript. And she was away. She just came back from Pakistan. She was there at Lahore when it was bombed last week. And I said, I found some stuff in the book I want to change, but I wanted to talk to you about it and get your permission because it's going to come out of it's not going to be available for 12 hours until it goes back and so. So yeah, the answer is yes, I do. I charge $1 a page to format. I prefer not to edit. I do some editing while I'm formatting because I come upon things, I see things that are so glaring, I just change them. It's no big deal. But sometimes when you're formatting a book, it's necessary to rewrite stuff. I showed you that by changing the position of words and things like that. Yeah, I do that. And the cover designs, it depends on the intricacy of the cover. The most difficult part of a cover, well, not this cover because it's got my picture on it, but this cover, for example, you notice that the right-hand margin is justified. Well, there's only one way to do that, and that's by putting each letter in individually. Because you can't see from one side of the page to the other on the computer, and so you can't just type it and get it to justify because it's done in it's digital. It's not like a Word format. So that takes that's really tedious to get it to come out, even margins. We got to be sort of crazy to do that kind of stuff anyway. So I do that, would judge it by what's involved. Yes?
If your book has a bunch of photographs,
Yes.
black and white, for example,
Yes.
and you want to reformat for Kindle, is that going to?
No. The Kindle prints, the Kindle will print the photographs and do a good job of it because the photographs are already digital. Oh, the positioning will change. There may be a way to embed that so it can't be changed, but I don't know how. And the reason I don't is because the formatting of a Kindle book depends upon the screen that it's being read on and the device it's being read on. It wouldn't be the same on any two devices. Another interesting thing about Kindle, in the past, only Kindle books are formatted in what is a .mobi format, digital format. Sony has a different format. Barnes & Noble has a different format. iPad, PC, all have different formats. And there was a company called Smashwords, and they would take your text and convert it to every platform of digital book. And they did it for free. And then they had published a catalog of they've got millions of books that they've done that with. But Amazon.com is no second-class outfit. They created apps for every form of ebook, and they're free. And you go on to Amazon.com, and you can buy any Kindle book and buy the app to convert it to whatever reader you want, your iPhone, whatever, and it digitizes perfectly. So the only place you really have to publish an ebook is with Kindle, and they do a great job. And I mean, they're a fantastic company. This CreateSpace, I've just never encountered people with the kind of customer service that they have. It's just incredible. In all the years, I've been with them maybe 11, 12 years, and I may have talked to people on the phone maybe 4 times in that whole period of time. I've been able to do it all without any help. It's Lightning Source is another. Lightning Source, though, is a printer. Well, Lightning Source was owned by Amazon. Well, yeah, it was. Ingram also has a print division. It may be Lulu, but I'm not sure. But I'm so happy with CreateSpace, I wouldn't even consider doing anything else. Yeah. Yes. I've published 2 books that are each 800 pages. What's that? 800. I don't know if there's too many or too little. The average novel is anywhere from 250 to 350 pages. This is a 370-page book. It's not a daunting task to pick it up and say, oh, I could read that, especially the way it's formatted, because it's a very easy book to read. Lots of white space. It's easy to read. You can read it without glasses, practically. So let's see, Tarnished Badges is formatted a little differently. It's 329 pages. Some of the others are oh, they're all 300. They're all about 300 plus pages. This is 324 pages. They vary. Alan's book is how many pages? 64, but we're increasing it. The problem with a book that's got not too many pages, he said what he had to say in 64 pages. There's no reason to make a 150-page book out of it, but you could. He could enlarge his photographs, he could enlarge the type, he could put more space between things, widen the margins, you could do that kind of stuff. But this one has got, I think, 20, this book is 102 pages. It has 17 stories in it, short stories. So there's no set number. The average novel has about 315 pages, maybe. And if it's got fewer, it's no big deal. Some of my earlier books are 280 pages, 270 pages. And tells the story.
What are the average number of words per page on the books you're talking about?
Well, the average number of books, the average number of words in a 300-page document is 95,000. And of course, that depends upon how wide the spaces are, what size the type is. If you want to turn a 150-page book into a 300-page book, do double spaces. So that's essentially it. It's not a daunting process. It's once you've gone through it, it's pretty easy. If you're intent upon writing more than one book, by the time you get to the second or third book, it's going to be like having a dream. Well, maybe that's not a good analogy. Some dreams are nightmares.
Have you always used a serif font for the body?
Yes.
Much easier to read.
I think it's easier to read. And the reason it's easier to read is because the capital I and the L look the same. And there are a lot of varieties. Listen, you can go online. There's one website called 1001 Fonts. And you can download any one of them you want. Just be careful when you download them, because half the time you're downloading something that's got stuff's going to interrupt every 15 minutes to sell you something. But there's some great fonts out there, some very creative people that post those things, and you can do all kinds of stuff with it. I sort of stick to Times Roman for the text. I use Calibri for things like captions under a photograph, or I do a lot of stuff. In this book, Calibri, C-A-L-I-B-R-I, it's a standard font. It comes with Microsoft. I haven't seen that. Better I don't know about it, probably. Here's and this has been changed, incidentally. That's Angelina, I think, is what it's called, and I'll read it to you because I put it in Old English sort of text, because there's a picture of me on a pony. That's been changed also. The newest version of this, here's a different font on this part. That's Calibri. You can see it's a sans serif font. That Angelina thing, I started the book with an epilogue that says, "In the beginning there was nothing. God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. There was still nothing, but you could see it a lot better." And I ended it with, "In the end, there was only dust. We don't know what God said. We don't know if there was light. No one has survived to tell us about it." So yeah, I like the font. There's others. There's Tahoma's sans serif. There's all kinds of different types you can use, but the standard is Times Roman. It's easy to read. Okay, that's it. Thank you.